Hello, I am William.
And I'm Julie.
And we are coming to you from Old Louisville in Louisville, Kentucky. You may be asking yourself, why is the neighborhood called Old Louisville? It is a neighborhood that was formed and started being built in the late 1800s. It has the largest collection of restored Victorian-style homes in the U.S. It is the third largest natural historic preservation district in the U.S., and it just has a lot of history. When you consider a lot of the U.S. has neighborhoods that are built in the past 30, 40, 50 years, this is one that was actually built in the late 1800s, so it's actually pretty old. And existing as long as it has, it also means it is a location that has a number of ghost stories about it. Because if it's been around as long as it has, there's a bit of history behind it. But beyond that, other historical things to note. In the late 1800s, in 1883 through 1887, Louisville, Kentucky hosted the Southern Exposition, which was essentially like a World's Fair type of event. President Chester Arthur at the time opened the event up and was present. Thomas Edison was at the event. They had built a large wooden structure and as part of the exposition, and they had an exhibit that showed like 4,000 plus electric light bulbs, which at the time were new. And Thomas Edison was in attendance. So pretty historic stuff. And, since then, the area's gone through a lot of different change. A lot of the homes that you'll see through the video were large single-family homes that had like servants' quarters, really big. Over time, like post-World War I, II, etc., a lot of the homes were updated and changed to be multifamily apartments instead. And the area saw a lot of disinterest, especially as, in the U.S. there was a period of time where they were kind of bulldozing old stuff and making new stuff. But it was in the 1950s when this started to be called Old Louisville, by the locals. And it started to be, in recent decades, there's been a lot of interest in revitalizing things and preserving history and, taking advantage of everything that's here. So, Julie, before we started dating, had you ever really spent much time in this area?
I had not. I came, in Central Park, which is behind us, there is the Kentucky Shakespeare Theater will perform there. There's a little amphitheater that's outdoors. And so I had come to see a Kentucky Shakes performance. I'm trying to remember, I think it was Midsummer. Not the movie Midsummer, starring Florence Pugh, but the William Shakespeare, Midsummer Night's Dream. Anyway, I came to Central Park with like friends and someone else drove. No, I hadn't really come to the Old Louisville area aside from an occasional thing here and there.
So I had spent a bit of time here because I went to the University of Louisville, so the boundaries for what you would consider Old Louisville are kind of to the north, Broadway, or generally downtown Louisville. To the west, it's roughly 6th Street. It's kind of like a cross-section of streets. To the east, it's kind of Interstate 65. And then the boundary to the south is the University of Louisville. So U of L, a lot of students from U of L would live in some of the houses in Old Louisville that were converted into apartments. So I went to a number of parties that were held in those houses. And the University of Louisville itself, it was initially formed in 1798 as the Jefferson Seminary, and then eventually that shut down. And in the 1840s, the state of Kentucky kind of reconstituted a few different schools in Louisville as the University of Louisville. And the actual campus, the Belknap campus you would consider U of L today, was purchased and built out in the 1920s. So that didn't exist throughout the entirety of Old Louisville's history. It's a little bit, the more modern portion of it, considering Old Louisville was built starting in the late 1800s, like 1887 and on, after the exposition closed. So that's the majority of my experience, was going to different stuff around U of L, going to people's parties. Never saw any ghosts in any of those parties or heard anything about it. The scariest thing was really the hangovers. But so now we'll start going through some of the areas through here and some of the stories. So right now we're in front of the Conrad-Caldwell House. So this is one of the houses that, kind of a mansion. It's been operated as a museum since 1987, but this is, one of the older houses that, looks like a mansion. And this is a location where it's said that you can see the ghost of some of the original owners of the property. So
Theophilius.
Theophilius Conrad.
Yes, Theophilius.
And then Miss and Miss Caldwell, who were also owners, because there's urban legends that you can see the ghost of them, different parts of the house. I think some of the stories are about seeing them in the room that used to be the billiards room in the building. It's operated as a museum. They have a shop in it.
Great shop. I have a t-shirt from there.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's anything specifically malicious or demonic or anything like that that's been really told about this place. Just kind of more of you can see the ghosts of the old owners, and being the kind of big ornate house that's that old, it makes sense people would see things there. So we actually, something we would definitely recommend you do is they do different tours through Old Louisville. So they do the ghost tour that goes through different areas in Old Louisville. They do architectural tours, I think. They do ones in the December that are Christmas themed, when the houses are all decorated up. But then they also do one which is, I think, the third week in October, where in the various houses you actually get to go in and they have actors portraying the different ghosts at the houses. Because you had a lot of fun, right? Because you brought your friend.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Definitely recommend. And it's late October, so the weather's hit and miss here in Kentucky in late October. But it was pretty fun. They have local actors who are dressed up, and they're the ghosts, and they tell a story, and you're walking around at night, and it's really cool. Something cool too about this area. I don't know if you want to turn the camera up towards it at some point. Oh, okay. Well, we'll insert B-roll. They have these really cool gaslit lamps.
Yeah, they're
gas lamps.
They're lanterns.
They are lanterns. Like I said, we'll insert the B-roll. Anyway, but they're really cool, and at nighttime they light up. And I forget the actual history, but they're some of the oldest original gas lamps in the country.
I think that's making that up.
Okay, I'm making it up. But the point is, they're old and they're original and they're cool.
Yeah, and I think they said
nice charm.
It's less expensive to keep them just running 24/7 than to have lamp lighters that go through and deal with them. So they just run all the time.
Yeah, they just run all the time. So yeah, nice, cool. Yeah, but definitely go on a tour. You can go in the Conrad House.
So right now we're standing in front of the fountain that's in St. James Court, which I'll insert some B-roll of. And it's not really running right now. There's no water through it because we're recording this in March, and there's still been spouts of it being below freezing. So it would make sense it's not turned on. But there are a couple urban legends around this area in the court. One of them is the Ice Boy, which may be different than you're thinking based on the initial description. It's where one of the buildings that's 3 stories that was used for apartments, there was a plan to turn it into a 5-story building, which locals were not excited about because it was going to interrupt a lot of people's views of the skyline. And people have always been NIMBYs, not in my backyard, don't build that here. But the legend goes that they were building the building is in the winter, and one of a young boy from a local neighborhood had managed to get up onto the 5th floor for some reason, and the top floors caught on fire. And the boy was stuck up there. When the fire was going on, the fire department came in, put it out, and then because it was in the winter, it froze over. And that's why it's referred to as the Ghost Boy, or the Ice Boy, which I guess
the ghost of the Ice Boy.
Which I guess if it really happened would be have died from smoke inhalation or fire. But the legend, calls him the Ice Boy. But that's an urban legend. You can currently see him around the courtyard, around the fountain and stuff. And then there was also a woman that was claimed that was her son went to World War I and died in war, and she couldn't really accept that fact and believed that he would come back, and kept waiting. So apparently you can see her wandering some of the courts as well. But if you hear the term Ice Boy, I would think the X-Men character Iceman.
Someone who froze. Yeah, well, because it was in the winter when the water was there, and so he was, I guess, covered in ice. But I'm like, but he would have been burned up, which is really sad to think about. But he would have been burned up. But maybe he's just a distant relative to Daenerys Targaryen, so he's the unburned, and that's why he then got covered in ice. So.
Yeah, but apparently you can see him in the courtyard area around here. Again, I'm stone cold skeptic, so I don't quite believe any of the stuff. But it's always interesting to go and explore and see what all the history is when people talk about in these neighborhoods that are older that have a lot of history.
And they're really pretty houses.
Yeah. So there's that going for it as well.
Yes.
So we are now in front of the house that is known as the Pink Palace. It is one of the more notable houses you'll see in Old Louisville. You see in a lot of the tourism stuff, and if you go look on Google Maps, I'm sure you'll see that in there. It was a house that was originally used as like a gentleman's club at a casino, and it was later purchased by like the Christian women's temperance movement, and they painted it pink to indicate all fun here is over.
The pink is so fun. It makes no sense to me.
Well, sensibilities have changed. And the legend there is that there is a ghost named Avery that is a helpful ghost that will warn people or scare them to help them avoid calamity. Because I think the stories are that a woman was in the shower or in the tub, and he showed up and scared her, so she got out of the tub. And then shortly after that, some vandal threw a brick through the window. So that would have, stopped a pretty serious injury with a lot of glass and, damage. And then apparently he also showed up to like stop like somebody before a kitchen fire to help them.
Yeah.
So he seems like a friendly ghost. He's supposed to be like one of the original owners. I don't know if there's like a specific name attached to this or story, but the ghost is referred to as Avery. He's supposed to be helpful. And I think people, when we did the tours, we talked about they do like the history tour and the ghost tour and stuff. They had mentioned that this house may have been the inspiration for the movie Coraline, where they have a house called the Pink Palace. But I've also seen people claim other houses were the inspiration that are pink.
Yeah.
So that may just be a fun story, but it's a cool, kind of iconic looking house.
It is. It's very cool. And if you sell Mary Kay, it's the ultimate prize. Sell enough Mary Kay product, you get this house.
Or you get to take over the lease for it.
Yeah, just the lease. But just so you know. Yeah, I love the story though, and we actually talked about this, like what we each envisioned Avery looks like. Because I hear Avery, and especially it being Kentucky, I think of like Avery, like very like Appalachian, like dude, like older dude with like a long gray beard and like overalls or something. But you envision something different.
Well, if it was a gentleman's club in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, I would expect a dude dressed to the nines with like a bow tie and like a nice suit. Because everybody thinks of the Kentucky Derby in Kentucky, so Kentucky Derby type of
Do you think
thing.
he'd have one of those spindly mustaches?
Yeah, the wax mustaches that curl up, probably.
I still like my version of Avery better, but yours is probably more accurate.
Well, it was an affluent neighborhood at the time. I don't know too many dudes from Appalachian were coming down here. Maybe
he was selling beef jerky. For those locals who used to frequent the back door, you know what I'm referencing.
Right now, we're in front of the Bourbon Inn, a bed and breakfast that you can actually rent today. That's available. You can go on their website and book a room. Somewhere there's been a ghost woman that people reported seeing on the stairs. And then the urban legend that ties back into that was a woman named Annie Whipple was a tutor for the family that lived there, and their daughter fell super, super sick, and she had seen an advertisement in the newspaper that would have been a cure, but when she reached out to that doctor, they had passed away. And she then, and this is where it kind of veers into territory that seems like a short story, went to a spiritualist who was, according to the urban legend, a woman who was like a former slave at the Witch's Tree, who taught her some different techniques to do automatic writing, which is where you essentially let
like
a
a
spirit...
ghost writes through you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it wrote her some details on a prescription to get, and then she went to a pharmacy and they actually had it, and they had to go dig around in the back and find it. And then she gave it to the little girl, wasn't doing anything, wasn't helping. So she did an automatic writing session again, but it was much more violent, and it ended with the writing, mocking her, saying it wasn't actually the doctor. And then she fainted, and then, within a couple days, passed away, but on her deathbed told the mother what she had done. And then apparently after she had died, the little girl recovered fully. So some people think it might be some type of, Faustian bargain or something where it was trading her life for the little girls unknowingly or something. I mean, the story itself seems like it has a lot of elements that would be in like a fictional story.
Yeah,
like a short story.
It's a great story. And so maybe if you go and stay at the Bourbon Inn, you should not try to do any of the, what is it called again? The writing?
Automatic writing.
Yeah, maybe don't do the automatic writing if you go and stay at the Bourbon Inn. Yeah, that it's a cool place. It's actually on our list of places to stay at because it looks cool.
I just mentioned in the last story about the Bourbon Inn, the Witch's Tree in Old Louisville. We're not actually going to go over there and stand in front of it because it's on a street corner.
Like up on the corner, and we don't want to be in the street and in the traffic.
And there's not really a street light, so it's really dark, so it wouldn't look very good. So I'll just throw in B-roll footage of what it actually looks like with better lighting. But that is a location that's also an urban legend, supposedly where, you know, a group of witches would meet and do, you know, whatever rituals, or, you know, considering...
Just a girls' night, you know, some Pinot Grigio, you know how it goes.
Considering, you know, a lot of times women were considered to be witches if they just chatted with another woman outside of their husband or something. But so, you know, everything was going fine until the city decided to cut down the tree and strip it for the...
There's 2 owls up there.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Maybe it's witches coming to visit us.
Oh, that's so cool.
But things are going fine until the city decided to cut down the tree and to use it for the Maypole celebration.
I really hope the audio picked that up. The 2 owls were just like...
The witches then threatened that they would put a curse. They cut the tree down, so they did do a curse, and they said in 11 months that something would happen. And that was when there was a big storm in the city that destroyed a lot of things. And then, according to the legend, a bolt of lightning hit the tree stump. And from that, the tree regrew, all knotted up and gross looking, because the tree is very unique. It has a lot of knots and bends and stuff in it. It doesn't look like your standard tree.
It's a substance tree. The
movie The Substance?
The Substance. You know how each time she looked...
Well, that's a spoiler.
It won some Oscars.
Yeah.
Go watch The Substance. It's fine. You've seen enough pictures on the internet. I didn't ruin anything for you. Just go watch it.
But you know, it's a tree that's all mangled and weird looking. So that's the story behind it, and that, you know, why it's called the Witch Tree. So a number of the stories that we went over so far are kind of, you know, more benign ghost stories. Well, no, the Annie Whipple one's kind of sad, but and the one about the woman whose son died in World War II is kind of sad. And the little boys, okay, they're all kind of sad.
Literally, any ghost story is sad because someone died. Someone died in order to have a ghost.
But those are all ones where there's like a, you know, they're all stories. I didn't really see any specific evidence.
They're conjecture.
Yeah, there's not any specific evidence of these people existing. But the story we're about to discuss now is unfortunately more modern, more recent, and 100% happened.
Corroborated by actual court case, jail news stories. Yeah, it's legit. It's real. It happened within our lifetime.
So we're not going and recording in front of this house directly. I put some B-roll of it, but people do live there today. But on 4th Street, there was a house. And this is actually, I'll include a link in the video notes or the video description to the After the First 48 episode about this case and trial. But in 2010, a man had called police about a domestic violence situation with his partner. And then when the police came and were questioning him, he offered up details about a body in the basement. And they obviously investigated further. And then ultimately, so as a man and his partner, they had invited over a man that they had had relations with in the past, who was due to turn himself into jail or to prison the next day. Invited him over, and then killed him, and then mutilated his body, put it into a plastic container, and then buried it in the dirt basement below the house. So pretty morbid. One of the men went to prison for murder, and then the other one went to jail for some other crimes related to that, but not the actual murder himself. So it was just one of the men who was convicted of the murder. But, you know, so that's an actual tragedy that happened. There was a court trial, jail sentences, all that.
This is how many years ago did you say? 2000?
So I think it may have happened. The body was found in 2010, and all the court trial stuff wrapped up in like 2013.
Yeah, so legitimately not that long ago in terms of when crazy murder ghost stories occur.
Now, I don't think there's any specific ghost stories related to that. It's just that, you know, pretty
messed up.
Pretty macabre story. There's a plane flying over, so excuse that.
So we'll just...
Hopefully, I don't think it's going to pick it up too much. But then there were... Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, but the more common reason why it's referred to as the murder house in the modern day, and by modern day I mean, 12 years, 15, 2010, 15 years later, is because a flock of crows live there now.
Okay.
It took me a while to get there. It wasn't that funny. I'm so sorry. In my head, it was funnier. The plane distracted me.
But yeah, and there's rumors, obviously, because one of the guys who was involved in the trial was like into S&M stuff and wearing like a rubber suit. So people claimed that story was inspiration for American Horror Story Season 1, which may be
the gimp suit or whatever.
Which may be a stretch. I don't know if it was related or not. And then on the ghost tour, they talk about other stuff that supposedly happened in that house, which, anytime something real life tragedy happens, it gets expanded on and, exaggerated by people. For whatever reason, people like to make stuff more than it was, or maybe it's true and it's just unsubstantiated. But real life tragedy that's more recent, not really somewhere I'm like, oh, you need to go see this house. It's just interesting to know that, in this city there has been, stuff like that actually happened. So this video is definitely not an exhaustive list of all ghost stories about this area. So there's definitely way more. If you want to learn more about that, you can do the ghost tours that we talked about, because they cover a lot more. I don't want to cover every single thing that they do on those tours that we went on, kind of blow their spot up. So I'd recommend doing that, because you had a lot of fun, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was super fun. I enjoyed both the regular tour where they walk through and you have a tour guide telling you stories. They were really engaging. And then, yeah, the actual tour with like the actors was super cool. Just know going in that you should not do flash photography. We had an instance where one person kept taking like these pictures with their flash, and it's like, what are you doing? This is a live actor 3 feet in front of you.
Yeah, because they explicitly say don't use the flash. And
yeah, it's very distracting.
Got 3 feet from the guy's face and turned their camera on, and the flash came on.
But just, I guess another disclaimer though is if and when you do come through on your own, just to look again, walk through Central Park, check it out. Just bear in mind, people live here. These are actual homes people live in, so just be respectful when you come through.
Well, you can also come here for non-ghost story related stuff for the St. James Art Fair.
Oh yeah, that's in the beginning of October.
And then they do, as you mentioned, like performances in the park. They do Shakespeare in the Park, different things.
Support Kentucky Shakespeare.
Disclaimer: we have no connection to any of these places, financially or otherwise. We don't have any connection to any of the people that run that stuff. But in the notes for the video, make sure to check it out. I'll have links to the book I read before we shot this video. Links to the various tours they do, and all that, and that episode of the First 48 and stuff. So you can see what our sources are. But yeah, that's Old Louisville. Definitely, like Julie said, a place that's worth checking out. If nothing else, you can go look at all the houses, because they're pretty cool.
They're really cool.
But all right, that's it till next time.